We often talk about love like it's supposed to sweep us off our feet like fireworks and fairy tales, but the truth is, the right person for you isn't the one who makes your heart race out of fear of losing them. It's the one who makes your heart feel calm in the chaos. It's not about drama, it's about peace. That's how you start to know. The right one doesn't complete you. You were never broken. You were never missing pieces. The right person amplifies who you already are. They don't stand in front of your light, they reflect it. They don't try to change your purpose. They stand beside it and say, I see it too. Let's build it together. We're trained to chase chemistry, the butterflies, the excitement, the sparks. But chemistry alone won't sustain a relationship. What matters far more is alignment. Alignment of values, of vision, of how you want to live your life. The right one isn't the one who just makes you feel good today. They're the one whose life and values are compatible with where you're going. When your principles match, the foundation is strong enough to last through the inevitable storms. When someone is right for you, you don't have to pretend. You don't shrink yourself. You don't walk on eggshells. You don't live in fear that showing your real self might drive them away. You feel seen, you feel safe, you feel accepted, even in your most unpolished moments. The right person holds space for all of you, not just the parts that are easy to love. You grow not because they demand it, but because they inspire it. And it goes both ways. You encourage each other to become the best versions of yourselves. There's no scoreboard, no power games, just two people committed to becoming better together. And when conflict shows up, because it always will, the right one doesn't make you feel like the enemy. It's not you versus them. It's both of you. Versus the problem. Hard conversations don't destroy the relationship, they strengthen it. The right person listens to understand, not just to reply. They care more about resolution than being right. In the end, knowing they're the one doesn't come from grand gestures or perfect compatibility. It comes from the quiet moments, the steady, intentional love, the willingness to choose each other, not just on the easy days, but every day, especially on the hard ones. The right one won't make you doubt your worth. They'll remind you of it over and over again. And more importantly, they'll act like it. There's a narrative we've been fed for years that love is about finding your other half, the person who will finally make you whole. It's romantic in theory, but dangerous in practice. Because if you believe you are incomplete without someone else, you'll spend your life searching for someone to fill the spaces you haven't yet claimed in yourself. The truth is, you are already whole. You are already enough. You are not a puzzle missing pieces. You are a complete human being with your own path, your own story, your own potential. The right person isn't there to complete you. They're there to amplify you. When someone is right for you, they don't try to fix you. They don't show up with a checklist of things you need to change or become. They don't treat you like a project. Instead, they reflect back the best parts of you. They see your strengths even when you forget them. They encourage you to lean into who you are, not who they think you should be. And it goes deeper than support. Amplification means they don't stand in your light. They help you shine brighter. You don't feel threatened by your success, your ambition, your individuality. They celebrate it. Because they're not looking for someone to fit into their life like a background character. They're looking to build something together, side by side, both people fully alive and fully expressed. Think about music. A good amplifier doesn't change the sound of the instrument. It just makes it louder, clearer, more powerful. That's what the right person does in your life. They don't rewrite your melody. They make it resonate louder in the world. That kind of relationship doesn't come from dependency. It comes from mutual respect, from two people who have done their own inner work, two people who know who they are, or at the very least are willing to keep learning who they are. Two people who don't need each other, but choose each other again and again, because being together makes both of them stronger. You can feel it in the way they speak to you, in how they listen, in how they show up. Not just when it's convenient, but when it matters. They aren't afraid of your growth. They don't shrink when you stretch. They rise with you. It's a relationship where you can bring your dreams to the table and not be met with fear or insecurity, but with curiosity. How can I help? What do you need from me? I believe in you. These aren't just words. They become the environment of the relationship. It becomes the culture you build together. One of encouragement, not competition. One of co-creation, not control. And maybe most importantly, amplification is mutual. It's not one person doing all the giving. It's not one person always being the cheerleader while the other takes up space. You pour into each other. You push each other in the best ways. You give each other permission to dream, to fail, to learn, to evolve. So if you're wondering whether someone is right for you, stop asking if they complete you. Ask yourself, do I feel more like myself when I'm with them? Do they bring out the best in me, not just when I'm winning, but when I'm struggling too? That's the sign. That's the signal. That's what real love does. Because when it's right, it's not about filling gaps, it's about multiplying strengths. It's not about finishing each other, it's about building something greater together. We often confuse connection with compatibility. That feeling when you meet someone and everything clicks, the laughs, the energy, the way the conversation flows. It's powerful, it's exciting. But chemistry, while intoxicating, is not the foundation of a lasting relationship. Chemistry gets your attention. Values keep your commitment. What you feel in the first few weeks, the spark, the butterflies, that's attraction. And while it matters, it's not enough. Because attraction can fade. What doesn't fade is who someone is at their core. What they believe, what they stand for, how they treat people, and how they show up when things aren't easy. That's where values live. And if those values don't align with yours, no amount of chemistry will make it work in the long run. Values determine how someone lives their life, not just what they say they care about, but what their actions reveal when no one's watching. If you value honesty and transparency, but they believe in withholding the truth to protect feelings, you'll eventually feel betrayed. If you value ambition and purpose, but they're comfortable staying stuck and avoiding growth, you'll start to feel alone, even in the relationship. The issue is we often ignore value mismatches because we're intoxicated by chemistry. We think, but we connect so well. Or, I've never felt like this with anyone before. And that might be true, but it doesn't mean it's right. Chemistry can be present even when a relationship isn't built to last. It's like building a house on sand. It might look good at first, but it won't hold when the storm comes. When two people share aligned values, something powerful happens. They walk in the same direction, even if their personalities are different. They don't have to constantly convince each other why something matters, because it already matters to both. They make decisions from the same place. They resolve conflict with the same guiding principles. There's a baseline of understanding, and that creates stability, trust, and safety. And that's not to say it's always easy or that you'll never disagree, but when your values are aligned, disagreements are productive, not destructive. You're not fighting to win, you're working to understand. You're not trying to change each other, you're supporting each other through change. Partnership becomes a partnership, not a negotiation. This is why clarity about your own values is so important. You can't align with someone if you don't even know what direction you're going in. Take the time to ask yourself, what do I believe in? What do I need in order to feel safe, seen, and supported? What non-negotiables must exist in my life and relationships? Because once you know your values, you'll recognize misalignment faster. You'll stop rationalizing red flags. You'll stop trading long-term peace for short-term passion. And when you do find someone whose values align with yours, the connection will feel deeper, not just exciting, but right. The truth is, chemistry may light the spark, but values are what keep the fire burning. Anyone can make you feel something for a moment. But the right person, the one whose values align with yours, they'll help you build a relationship that lasts for a lifetime. Not because it's perfect, but because it's real. So choose someone not just because of how they make you feel, but because of how they live, what they believe, and where they're going. Because at the end of the day, the strength of the relationship isn't measured by the fire you start. It's measured by the direction you walk in together. One of the clear signs that someone is right for you is simple yet powerful. You feel safe being exactly who you are. Not a version of you that's filtered, polished, or edited to impress them, but the real you. The messy, imperfect, sometimes uncertain you. And that kind of safety doesn't come from infatuation or charm. It comes from consistency, trust, and emotional presence. In a world that constantly pressures us to perform, to be likable, to fit into molds we never designed, finding a space where you can exhale and just be, that's rare. And in a relationship, it's everything. Because love without safety isn't love, it's performance. And performance is exhausting. When you're with the right person, you don't have to shrink to fit in. You don't have to mute your voice, dim your dreams, or second guess your feelings. You're not afraid that your truth will drive them away. You're not walking on eggshells hoping your honesty doesn't cost you the connection. Instead, you're able to bring your full self to the table, your thoughts, your fears, your ideas, your passions, and they meet you with presence, not judgment. It doesn't safety, isn't loud, it doesn't shout to be noticed. It's quiet but steady. It's in the way they listen, really listen when you speak. It's in the way they pay attention, not just to your words, but to your silences. It's in the way they allow you space to feel without trying to fix you, and the way they celebrate your weirdness instead of asking you to tone it down. Feeling safe being yourself doesn't mean there's no conflict. It means that when conflict happens, you're not afraid it'll cost you the relationship. You know you can disagree, be upset, speak your truth, and still be loved. That creates a kind of freedom where intimacy grows naturally, vulnerability stops being scary. Walls come down, and in that space, something incredible happens. Trust deepens. You begin to realize you don't have to impress them to keep their love. You don't have to earn your place in their life. You already have it. You start to relax. You stop pretending. You laugh louder. You speak more honestly. You show up more fully. And in turn, they do the same. Because safety is contagious. When one person creates it, the other responds in kind. This is how deep, meaningful relationships are built. Not on perfection, but on presence. Not on constant agreement, but on mutual respect. When two people can bring their authentic selves forward and still feel loved, they stop fearing disconnection. And from that space, they build something real, something rooted not in fantasy, but in truth. So if you find yourself constantly trying to be what someone else wants, if you're afraid to speak up or always filtering yourself or wondering if you're too much, pause. Ask yourself if the connection is really giving you the space to be seen. Because if it isn't, it's not real connection. It's compromise disguised as compatibility. You deserve a relationship where you're not just accepted, you're embraced. Where your weirdness is welcomed, your flaws are met with grace, and your dreams are taken seriously. Where you're loved not in spite of who you are, but because of it. Growth is essential in any relationship. But there's a difference between growth that is inspired and growth that is demanded. When it's the right person, growth feels mutual, not forced. It's not one person dragging the other forward, not one person constantly asking the other to change or do better. It's a shared rhythm, a natural evolution where both people are equally invested in becoming better. Not just for the relationship, but for themselves. In the wrong dynamic, one person often feels like the teacher, the fixer, the motivator, while the other becomes the reluctant student. And while it's noble to want to help someone rise, when that help turns into pressure, the relationship becomes unbalanced. Love should never feel like a self-improvement boot camp. You're not there to be someone's project, and they're not there to be yours. That kind of pressure doesn't create growth. It creates resistance, resentment, and exhaustion. Mutual growth, on the other hand, feels different. It feels like support, not pressure. It feels like encouragement, not expectation. It comes from a place of respect, not control. When someone truly respects you, they don't try to mold you. They believe in your ability to evolve on your own timeline in your own way. And when two people approach each other with that mindset, they create an environment where growth happens organically. You cheer each other on. You share ideas, dreams, feedback, not because you're trying to fix each other, but because you genuinely want to see each other thrive. There's a shared belief that we're both still becoming, and that belief creates room for mistakes, learning, change, and most importantly, grace. This kind of relationship is a space where it's safe to take risks, to stretch beyond your comfort zone, to fall down and be met with understanding, not criticism. It's a space where I believe in you isn't just said, it's lived. And because both people are showing up with that same energy, neither one feels like they're carrying the weight of the relationship alone. Neither one feels like they're being left behind or pushed too far ahead. It also means that you grow together, but not necessarily in the same way or at the same pace. That's okay. Mutual growth isn't about symmetry. It's about intention. It's about two people who are committed to forward movement. Even if the paths look a little different, as long as you're both headed in the same direction, toward more honesty, more purpose, more depth, that alignment holds you together. And here's the beauty of it. When growth feels mutual, the relationship becomes a powerful catalyst for both individuals. You begin to take more risks in your personal life, because you know someone has your back. You pursue your goals more confidently because you have someone cheering you on. You face your flaws more honestly because you feel safe doing so. Love becomes a mirror and a motivator, not a battlefield. So if you find yourself always feeling like you're the only one doing the work or constantly needing to convince someone to care, pay attention. Growth should never be a fight. It should never feel like something you have to beg for. The right relationship will challenge you, but it will also comfort you. It will ask you to level up, not from fear, but from inspiration. And you will do the same for them, not because you're trying to change them, but because you see who they're capable of becoming, and they see it too. Most people fear hard conversations. We avoid them, delay them, sugarcoat them. We worry that telling the truth might break something, that expressing our feelings might push someone away. But in a healthy relationship, the opposite is true. Hard conversations don't break you, they build you. They are not a sign of trouble, they are a sign of trust. When someone is truly right for you, you don't have to live in silence to keep the peace. You don't have to hide your concerns, minimize your pain, or pretend everything is fine just to keep the relationship afloat. You can bring the hard truths to the table, your disappointments, your fears, your unmet needs. And instead of judgment, you're met with curiosity and care. The right relationship gives you the room to speak honestly, even when what you're saying is uncomfortable. And when that honesty is received with openness instead of defensiveness, something powerful happens. The relationship deepens, trust grows, respect solidifies, because now you know you can be real and they won't run. Hard conversations test the strength of your bond, yes, but they also reveal the strength of your bond. Anyone can smile and love when things are smooth. But the question is, can they stay present, stay calm, stay connected when things get tense? Can they hear you even when what you're saying hurts? Can they hold space for your truth even when it challenges their perspective? It's in those moments when two people are vulnerable and raw and willing to listen instead of defend that real growth happens. Because relationships are not built on perfection, they are built on repair. They are built on the willingness to lean in when things get uncomfortable, not walk away. When you have hard conversations, you are saying, I value this relationship enough to be honest. I respect this enough to work through this instead of pretending it's fine. That is love, that is maturity, that is courage. Of course, hard conversations aren't always easy. They can be awkward, emotional. Sometimes things come out messy. But what matters is how you have them. Are you speaking from blame or from vulnerability? Are you trying to win or are you trying to understand? The goal isn't to be right. It's to be real. It's to repair, to reconnect, to move forward with clarity. When both people in a relationship are willing to have those kinds of conversations, you build something unshakable. You create a relationship that can weather storms, one that doesn't fall apart at the first sign of discomfort, one that knows conflict isn't the enemy, disconnection is. And here's what might surprise you. Over time, the more honest conversations you have, the less scary they become. You start to trust that you can bring your full truth into the relationship and still be loved. You stop tiptoeing, you stop hiding, you start communicating like partners, not opponents. So don't be afraid of the conversations that make your voice shake. Don't run from the things that need to be said, because if the connection is real, if the respect is mutual, and if the love is deep, those conversations won't tear you apart, they'll pull you closer. The right person won't shut down or walk away when things get hard. They'll lean in They'll say, let's work through this together. And in doing so, you won't just survive the hard conversations, you'll build something stronger because of them. That's how you know it's love worth keeping, not because it's always easy, but because it's always honest. And honesty builds foundations that last. Love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice. And when it's real, that choice doesn't feel like a burden or an obligation. It feels natural, it feels right. You don't choose them out of guilt or fear or because it's comfortable. You choose them because every part of you knows this is where you're meant to be. The right relationship isn't one where you make the choice once and forget about it. It's a decision you make over and over again, sometimes with ease, sometimes with effort. Because there will be days when life is complicated, when stress piles up, when misunderstandings happen, when emotions run high. But even then, the commitment stays steady. The love holds. You keep choosing. And here's what makes it beautiful. When you're with the right person, choosing them feels like choosing yourself too. Because they don't ask you to abandon who you are. They don't ask you to settle, shrink, or sacrifice your joy just to keep them close. They meet you at partnership, with presence, with purpose. So when you choose them, you're not losing anything, you're expanding your life. This kind of love doesn't rely on constant intensity or dramatic highs and lows. It's not about grand gestures or fairy tale moments. It's about the quiet decisions, the everyday yes that says, I'm here. I still believe in this. I believe in you. That's the heartbeat of a lasting relationship. Not one big choice, but 1,000 small ones. You choose them in the way you show up, when you could pull away, but lean in instead. You choose them when you listen, when you apologize, when you grow, when you hold space for their humanity in your own. You choose them when you celebrate their wins like they're your own. And when you stand beside them in the hard seasons. And they do the same for you. That's what makes it mutual. That's what makes it real. Because love that lasts is love that's chosen freely, not out of fear, not out of habit, but from deep alignment and shared vision. In relationships that aren't right, choosing each other starts to feel like a chore. You find yourself questioning, hesitating, compromising your needs just to keep things afloat. That's not love. That's survival. And over time, survival erodes connection. You start to feel alone, even when you're not. But in the right relationship, choosing them adds to your peace. It energizes you. It reminds you that love isn't just something you fall into. It's something you build. And anything you build requires attention, intention, effort. Not effort that drains you, but effort that says, this matters to me. The truth is, the strongest relationships aren't built on constant passion. They're built on quiet commitment. Knowing that even when life gets messy, even when people change, the foundation stays solid because the choice is still there. The choice to keep showing up, to keep learning each other, to keep choosing love, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's not. That's when you know you're in something real. When the choice isn't forced, it's felt. When you don't need a reason to stay, you want to. When every day, in big ways and small, you say yes to them and they say yes to you, not because you have to, but because you both still want to. And that's what makes it love worth holding on to. Not perfection, not fantasy, but a choice, steady, intentional, and mutual. The kind of choice that turns two lives into one journey. Every day, willingly